All right. So you're on this career journey. You've worked for some of the biggest logos out there, some of the most prestigious companies by many standards, and you turn it off. That's my next guest here, Alicia Teltz. Latest job was at LinkedIn, making $250,000 a year, bagged it, wanted to help others figure out how to grow their own personal brands, and is doing a bang up job along the way. I really enjoyed talking to her. She's a fun person with a lot of fire and a lot of passion and really smart. Let's dive in to Alicia Teltz. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Alicia, welcome to 10,000 Miles. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I am good. It's the afternoon for me already. I had a very good and busy day, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Vic.
Very nice. It's so nice to have you. And I enjoyed our pre-chat, by the way, very much. I was so much looking forward to our episode today. For the audience, I always start off with my LinkedIn stalking. I'm not a stalker. So, for anybody listening, if the NSA is listening right now, I'm really not a stalker, but I like watching what's going on LinkedIn because people are starting to become courageous and bold about having a personal voice while doing something great for other people and inside companies. Like there's a harmony there. And because I have an attraction to those types of feeds and people, Alicia comes up on my feed, right? And so I'm like, oh, look at this person. And so I'm reading some of your posts and I learn about your community. I'm not going to give all the spoilers away. I want it from your words. And I see your career path. I go right to your experience profile. And I'm like, this person did what I wanted to do, or what I ultimately did at 53, did it much sooner than I did. Boy, that's courageous. That's very courageous. And what that is leaving two amazing jobs, working at two amazing brands, Gartner and LinkedIn. These are marquee brands. People work their entire careers to try to find positions and success in these companies. And you had it and you left. And so I reached out to Alicia. I sent her a nice in-mail, said, I'm not a stalker. And here are all the reasons why I'd love to have you on my podcast. We had a 15-minute call. I think it went a half hour or more. It was lovely. And here we are. So Alicia, if you would introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes. Oh, and thank you for the lovely intro. I always like to summarize in one sentence. I basically left LinkedIn because of LinkedIn to build a business about LinkedIn on LinkedIn, which is absolutely nuts. And I'm not sure
That's
how many more
perfect.
times I can weave in the word LinkedIn into that sentence. But yeah, as people can tell from my accent, I'm originally from Germany, but I live in London now for the last 12 years, long time. And yeah, worked in B2B tech sales for 15 years. You mentioned two companies already, Gartner and LinkedIn, but I started my career at SAP. I worked at MasterCard. I then also worked at a few kind of smaller companies. I say smaller, they still had 7K employees. That was smaller kind of company. But it's just insane because I always worked in those massive organizations. And you mentioned it earlier as well, there's a lot of prestige behind it. If someone asks me, what do you do? And you say oh, I work for MasterCard or for LinkedIn, everyone knows that. It's so
everyone
easy.
knows it.
And people are inspired. But actually, that is not the be and end all. And we can dive into that in more detail. But basically, I've now left my job at LinkedIn to become an entrepreneur, to set up my own business about LinkedIn. And this is where we are. I'm 3 months in, so I'm still a newborn in the entrepreneurship world, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I will tell you, your visual brand doesn't look like you're 3 months in. Your
Make it
energy.
till you make it.
No, well, I'm you're not faking it. You're doing something really great because the impact that you're having already, I think, is much bigger than your time as an entrepreneur. And I see all of your experience through the MasterCard and the SAP and the Gartner and the LinkedIn. I see all of that coming through, and I think people are getting attracted to it very quickly. So, you've had these great big jobs and worked at great marquee brands. that's an accomplishment unto itself. Why don't you take us back to where it got started? What did you think you'd be doing as you got to the wonderful age that you're at right now? And I won't share it because you don't share a woman's age, but if you want to do that, you did tell me you're an open book. What was your journey like up until this point?
Yeah. So as I said, born in Germany, I absolutely fucking apologies for the swearing, but sometimes you need to swear when you feel
Love it.
very emotional.
It's a
I
sign of
absolutely
honesty.
thank you.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated school. I was good in school. I was a very
Hmm.
good student, but I was the type of student who learned so much, and I struggled with learning. So I overcompensated. I was so diligent. I was such a A student in the sense of I was doing everything teachers wanted for me, but I
Yeah.
hated it. So
Okay.
when school was over, I've done my A levels and I could have gone to university, but I could not bear the thought of having to learn ever again in my
Yeah.
life
I
for something
understand.
that is just theoretical and text based and book based. So I decided not to go to university, and I done a internship that turned into an apprenticeship that turned into a 4-year career at SAP, because I'm from Mannheim, where SAP is headquartered. So it was
Hmm.
actually quite easy because it was in my hometown, still very prestige and big company. But I kind of fell into it, as I said, with just an internship. And then they liked me. I've done a good job. Then I got the apprenticeship. And this actually only, it was contracted because it was the length of my apprenticeship. It was a full-time, 40-hour-a-week job, but it was limited to 4 years. And when those 4 years were over, I could have either decided to stay at SAP or find another job in Germany. But
Yep.
actually, I always wanted to do something adventurous. I'm not from a rich family. I mean, I had a roof over my head, I had food on the table,
Yeah.
that's fine. But we couldn't go on holidays. We've been on trips here and there, but I never had the opportunity to go abroad to really learn a language. I was always so jealous of those other kids in school that went to America for half a year, a semester, and then coming back, and they were absolutely the cool kids. Always wanted to be like them, but my parents couldn't afford it. So when I finished my apprenticeship, that was also my parents said you need to have at least some sort of education. If you're not going to
Yeah.
university, you need to do something. So fine, did an apprenticeship. But when that was over, I finally had freedom. So I booked a one-way ticket to London. I
Wow.
didn't speak English. I mean, I could speak school English. I didn't have a job, didn't know anyone. I checked into a hostel. It was a nightmare. I actually
What
checked
year
out
was
at 4
this?
a.m. the same night.
What year was
And
this?
I was around 23 at this
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And that was just for me, kind of an adventure. I had money for lasting me around 3 weeks. So I
Okay.
thought, let's just give it a try. I don't care if I work at Starbucks, if I work as a cleaner. By the way, fun fact, I did apply for a cleaner job and I was turned down, which is very upsetting. But the thing is, even though I had SAP on my CV, it was quite tricky getting a job because I didn't speak the language. I couldn't just get an office job if you don't speak the language, not as a prestige company.
Yeah.
So I actually did find a job that needed a German speaker desperately.
Perfect.
So that was my way into the corporate world. And
Yeah.
I will not go into too much nitty gritty, but there was one other aspect where at that job I was in, that German speaking job, um, one of our clients was MasterCard, and they were looking for an intern.
Hmm.
And I was helping them finding an intern. That was the agency kind of where I was working in. And instead of helping them to find an intern, I pitched myself because I saw the
Amazing.
salary that they were offering, which was
Yeah.
exactly the same that I was currently earning. And I was just saying hey, why don't you hire me? And this is just one of those key moments in my life where you just take action. You just
You just
try.
do
What
it.
is the worst that can happen? They say no, or they think oh, she's pitching herself. Anyways, it was so much worth the risk. And I did it, and I landed a job. And this is how I got into MasterCard in London. Because by that time, my English picked up. But that was such a important moment where you realize you have your future in your hands. You can, when you take action, you can
Yeah.
design your
You know
destiny.
what's interesting about everything you said? Pardon me. You did instinctively what people can model and leverage and do on purpose and shrink their time to success. You and I have a lot more in common than we actually even talked about. When you talked about your parents and you talked about not wanting to go to the university, I thought you were playing my tape back. I mean, your parents sounded like mine, the same type of advice. I registered for college, which is what we call it here in the States, or university. And I went to a semester, and about a third of the way through the semester, I wouldn't go, and I'd go to the music store and play guitar all day. And then second semester, I kind of did the same, but I didn't even make it that far. And then at that point, I was like, I want to do music. And that's a whole part of my other journey. But so you took something, I want to point this out because I love leaving these nuggets behind. You took something what others may have perceived as weakness, which was, I don't speak English, but you took, and I only speak German. Well, that became your strength, right? So rather than saying, I don't have this, therefore I can't, you're like, okay, what do I have that's different, that's going to make me stand out? It's going to make me valuable. Oh, I'm fluent in German, right? That's my native language. Hey, who needs somebody? Yeah, of course, in the world we live in, language very important. And so you took that. Now your English is wonderful, by the way, and having only been now, just over a decade of that, 10, 12 years, 13 years, it's fantastic. So I'm going to want to come back and understand how you learned English. Did you go to school? Did you just pick it up? What happened? But I wanted to point that out to the audience. Like, if you have something that you think is a weakness, see if there's an opportunity to turn it into a strength. Because did you know you were doing that at the time, or did you just go, did it appear to you?
I just went with it because I always like to think, what is the worst case scenario? And then when I think about the worst case scenario and I think I can survive that, I'm okay with that worst case scenario taking place, then I just do it. But I also think exactly what you're saying is, I wasn't aware of this back then, but now the more I educate myself, etc., it's like the difference between having a limited mindset and a growth mindset. So it's a typical like victim, like kind of stance that people are taking, exactly as you said, like, oh, I can't do this, and because of this, this, and this, finding excuses and blaming circumstances rather than thinking, how, exactly as you said, how can I turn this into my advantage, or where can I see growth, and always thinking optimistically, like always thinking, what if it goes right instead of what if it goes wrong. So just thinking, I just take a chance here, like, what's the worst that can happen, and what would actually be the best thing that could happen. So why should always the worst happen? Just think positively and just take a chance. If you're not taking action, like how are things going to happen for you?
Yeah, you've got to make that move. We can do an entire episode and bring in a psychologist to understand and go much deeper into this. But there is and I'm very curious, there's a psychology behind what's going on in people's minds, like, what's happening that puts them down into the tunnel versus gets them to pop their head up and go, hey, a car could drive by if I pop my head out of this little manhole cover. But if a car doesn't pop by and snap my head off, I may see the world and it may see me. And, so I've got to go out there and, sort of do it. But so take me through it. So you decide not to go to university. You've got this wonderful apprenticeship, and you're moving on, and then you move to London, and now you're at MasterCard because you were bold. Take me down the rest of the path.
Exactly. And to be fair, amazing company. You might think you earn a lot of money working for MasterCard. You don't. Back in the day, like, I'm not sure if people actually like can relate to this, but like, I earned 16K a year. Nowadays, the minimum wage in London is 27K a year. I was on 16K a year at MasterCard, like in Canary Wharf, which is like the New York of like London with all the skyscrapers. Like, in my head, I was living like the Gossip Girl life. Like, I was wearing my heels and like my nice business outfit, and I was feeling on top of the world. But I was still like struggling so much to live in London. It's so expensive.
Very
And I
expensive.
always wanted more. Like, I always wanted to grow. And in my corporate career, so at MasterCard, I hit a point where I couldn't grow more. And I just kind of got bored after it was 4 years. And then Gartner slipped into my LinkedIn DMs asking if I would want to interview for them. I had no idea who Gartner was. I had no idea. But they said in their initial message that they offer me an 80K salary, and I was on 16 while I got like a little bit higher up. But that was an insane jump for me. I was like, I don't care what that is, but yes, I will interview. And then obviously I learned about the company, and like it is an amazing employer. So I got to work for Gartner, stayed there for a couple of years, 3 years, left, worked for other companies, we joined Gartner actually because I was made redundant at another company. Second time round, Gartner is still a great company, but still also
Yeah.
not the right fit for me. And then
What did you
LinkedIn,
do at Gartner?
I was in sales. So
Okay.
working, which is actually really good, that helped me also in my journey now, because working in sales is tough. Not everyone has that perseverance and like being able to hear 100 no's and one yes and to still keep going. And Gartner, for those who don't know, is like a big consultancy and they predominantly target C-level executives. So I was selling to C-level executives of multi-billion-dollar companies. Like my clients are the most well-known companies in the world.
Yeah.
Try sending them a cold email and try to sell them a software. Like it is
Never.
fucking hard. It is hard.
Never.
But when you actually do well at Gartner, you get a lot of praise. I've been sent to like all the president's clubs and stuff, which is amazing. But it also kind of burns the shit out of you. Like you have to go. Like this is like, if you think about like
Sales.
Wolf of Wall Street, is like that kind of like atmosphere. It's great when you're early on in your career, because also when you have Gartner on your CV, doors open. Any other company that is like kind of like in the same space or technology space, they know how hard it is to sell Gartner, and they know
Yeah.
Gartner produces the best sales talent. Who survives like Gartner is like a sales professional. They can survive anywhere.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and this is how LinkedIn popped up. And I then started working for LinkedIn.
Did they reach out to you? Did you see something available there? How did that begin?
They literally slipped into my DMs as well. This just shows again like how important it is to at least have a LinkedIn profile. I didn't post at LinkedIn back in the day. Like I didn't make myself visible, but
Mm-hmm.
just having like a decent profile setup is already like half the rent. And actually, funnily enough, with LinkedIn, they reached out in like September. I went
Mm-hmm.
through the interview process and then there was a hiring freeze. And I said, like,
Okay.
yeah, we really like you, but we can't hire you. And I just thought, like, this is it. Like, what company says we are hiring you and then they don't hire you and they will come back? Like, I just thought, okay, what a shame.
Maybe all companies. It's just so incredible how many times that happens. It's
I
really
know.
true. It's
And
crazy. I think it's unprofessional, but I guess things happen.
but that's the thing. This is what my expectation was, and I kind of forgot about it. And then June came around, and LinkedIn said,
Holy
we are
cow.
now able to hire you. And I didn't need it to interview again. I didn't need it to go through the process again, even though it was almost a year apart. They just said, like, we
Let's
really
go.
want you. Join us. And I said, fuck
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah.
What did you do at LinkedIn? Were you in sales?
Yeah, I was like an account manager, so working with existing clients. I was
Okay.
actually, funnily enough, I was working again with multi-billion-dollar companies on helping them how to show up on LinkedIn, how should executives post on LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn to drive awareness, to hire
Mm-hmm.
talent, like everything. And I was always teaching them what I knew in theory, because I, at that point, have never posted on LinkedIn myself. I mean, I have
Okay.
posted here and there, like the odd post, but
Yeah.
it's basically like I was basically like a personal trainer without having ever lifted weights. Like I was just teaching what I knew from like in theory, but I've never done it myself. So actually, in February earlier this year, so just like 8 months or so ago, I made a public commitment. So I put it on my LinkedIn and said like, watch me as a LinkedIn employee to grow my following from basically 2,000 followers, but they were quite dormant. Like whenever I put out a post, I got like a few pity likes from my colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
to 10,000 followers, as I said, like within 3 months. And I said, like, see this as like a public experiment. I'm like your LinkedIn guinea pig. I'm literally a LinkedIn employee and I'm showing you transparently what it means to show up on LinkedIn, what works, what doesn't work, how does it feel, and also what happens when you do make yourself visible.
Yeah.
And I hit that goal one day before the deadline. I was panicking, I was sweating, but I did make it. And so many crazy opportunities came my way. I spoke to people that I never thought I would be able to get in touch with. People in LA that offered me to go to Snoop Dogg's house, which I'm still waiting for the official invitation. But it's just insane. You connect with people that you never thought you would be able to reach out to. People that I started following are now sending me messages. Like the other day, I don't want to say their name, but they are a
Yeah.
very well-known LinkedIn personality.
Amazing. I
And they
love it.
reached out to me recently asking, can you help with my algorithm? I don't know what's going on. And I thought like, oh, they're reaching out to me, asking me for advice. But yeah, but anyways, I started posting on LinkedIn. So many amazing things happened. And then I just felt like this is now the time for me to jump ship and do my own business. And I know I've just been having a very long monologue, but before I end my monologue,
No, this is super interesting. I love it.
I also want to say, like, there is so much stuff, 1 second, that was also going on behind the scenes. So this is like, if you were to look at my CV, this is kind of like my story. But in my personal life, I was in a 10-year relationship with my ex-partner. We were living in the countryside. We had a dog together. We were like geared up to marrying, having kids. And I just always felt like this is not the life I was envisioning for myself. That picket fence like house, that like kind of vanilla lifestyle in my eyes. Everyone has different dreams.
Totally
My
understand.
dream was excitement, growth, development, also adventure. And I couldn't see that for my future. And I was in a very loving relationship. But last year, I made that call to end that relationship after 10 years and went back to London. And this was like the trigger for everything. I lost 4 stone, which is around 30 kilograms. So my whole body changed, my whole look changed, but also my whole confidence changed. And I think this was all happening in my private life that then enabled me when I made that public goal on LinkedIn and then pulled the trigger to launch my own business. That was the confidence that I needed to actually jump ship, because I realized I was gearing up for a life that I didn't want it. Perfect life for other people, but not for me. And I did an exercise that was like, imagine yourself, you're like 90 years old and you are sitting on your veranda, reflecting back on your life. And you then have to ask yourself like questions. I regret not having said this. I regret not having done this. I wish I would, etc. And this is exactly where I realized I'm living a life that I didn't want it. And as I said, like
very common.
everything fell into place. And I'm so like, I know everyone would say that you are so much happier now, but I am genuinely like so fucking proud of myself. It's the fucking hardest thing to break up a relationship where everything is going
10-year
great.
relationship. It's next to
Fucking
impossible.
hell.
But so for my American viewers and listeners who don't know stones or kilograms, a stone is approximately 14 pounds, right? US.
I actually don't know. So I'm European, so I do things in kilograms. So for me,
how
it
many
is
pounds in a stone?
I think 1
it's
kilogram
about
is
14. I used to work for a guy who was from the UK. Nice guy. His name, about 14 pounds. His 14 pounds in 1 stone. His name was Mark. He was a British guy. And he saw me. I was, going to the gym and doing whatever. And he goes, Pepe, looks like you dropped a few stone. I'm like, I hadn't heard that. And honestly, my grandparents are from London, or my mother's was born in London. And they came, that side of the family came here after World War II. And you would think I would have heard a stone from now and then, because my grandparents had the very strong British accent. I told you my grandfather was born in Germany. My grandmother actually in Belgium by way of Russia, like, all around the crazy time, World War I and all this stuff. But crazy. So a stone is 14 pounds, but I love it.
I just found out. So it is 66 pounds that I've lost.
That you lost. That's incredible. Congratulations. Congratulations. More that we have in common. I was the chubby kid growing up.
Were you?
Oh yeah, I was the chubby kid. At least I wasn't always this dapper.
What?
What's
Go
that?
ahead first.
I was going to say, I went through, and I think like coming out of high school was when I first turned it on. And then my life has sort of been a little bit like this with the 20 pound. And now I'm in the midst of trying to take some off a little bit and lean out the face a little bit, but it's a journey.
I mean, you told me your age earlier and I was like, what the fuck? I cannot believe it.
Thank you. You're making me blush. I appreciate it.
But also, I want to say something controversial very quickly. Please. And I might not get likes from your audience for this, but I do think if you grew up as like a chubby kid or like the weird kid or like just a kid that is somewhat different, you have to develop like coping mechanisms and work harder in other ways that makes you, when you're an adult, funnier, more interesting, more determined. So I oftentimes, when I meet people, I think like, you're really interesting. Like I can see there is like
He was
something.
the fat kid. I know it.
You're the bad kid.
Yeah,
I
no.
know.
It is
It's so
controversial, but
tough to
it's
say.
true, because if if we spent an entire episode talking about my upbringing, I was that kid. I was the kid, who's, my other side of the family was Italian. Vittorio, eat more food, come on. And I lived in an apartment building in Brooklyn, New York, where a lot of my relatives lived. And I was famous for, this is so funny, I was famous for getting up, having something to eat, going outside, and I'd be outside in front of our apartment building, and I'd see, maybe now it's 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, summertime. And I'd see one of my aunts. Victor, what are you doing? Have you eaten? No, Aunt Loretta, I haven't eaten yet. Come on, let's go get a slice of pizza. And she'd take me 2 blocks up. We'd get a slice of pizza. We'd come back. She'd go inside. My grandfather come out 1 o'clock. Vittorio, did you eat yet? No, Grandpa, I haven't ate yet. And so these guys are packing it with me with like 10,000 calories a day at a minimum. And I was like, no. And they're all like, your mother sucks. How is she? And meanwhile, my mother's feeding me. She's an amazing mother. But I'm like, no, I haven't eaten yet. I just had a love affair with food. And, no wonder why I was in the husky pants. That's something that we had here in the States. When you grew up, they had husky sizes. So, 14 huskies, 16. That was like the kiss of death stamp, and it was stamped on the back of your pants. So you go to school and it says husky. Nothing says fat kid, more like the husky jeans, It was crazy. And so you develop to be a little charming, and you develop a personality, and that's what happens. That's where you go.
You need to find other ways for people to like you. If it's not your appearance, and I know it is said that this is the world we're in, but you have to find other ways to make yourself interesting and liked. So yeah.
Yes. All right. So I want to dig into more about you leaving LinkedIn and what that process, we touched on it. You weren't living a life where you felt fulfilled. You wanted growth. You wanted other things. It forced you into a relationship that may have been steered toward the picket fence in the countryside. What was going on during that time? Like, how long did this process take? Did you wake up one day and say, I'm doing this? Tell me about this journey, because as we talked about before, I did what you did almost 20 years after you did it, meaning you were 35. You did this short while ago. I was 53 when I left corporate America. And to be honest with you, I was very fortunate. Due to a merger, I had an exit that afforded me time.
Nice.
Good amount of time. And so, not certain I would have had the opportunity to do it otherwise, because I was, 3 kids, college tuitions, like all of these things. That said, I could have done something different with that exit package. And I could have gone right back into another corporate gig, which was available to me at the time. I had a number of offers to go right back into from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. But I resisted and I didn't do it. And I used that money to leverage myself into the business I'm in today. And everybody thought it was crazy because, at 53, they're like, oh, that's your payday. You might not get another one. I'm like, well, I might not get another one. Kidding me? I'm going to get one 5 times as big as this now, because I could use it as the rocket fuel and pour it in the engine. Like this is what I'm betting on. So for you, having done this at your, in your mid 30s, what were you thinking about? And I want you to get into as much detail as you're comfortable with, because I am telling you, Alicia, there are so many people. I hope everybody hears this episode who's struggling with this transition, corporate gig, non-corporate gig. And it's not for everybody, but for those who are wondering what it takes and what you went through, I want to know everything. So I'm going to be quiet for a little while.
You know what? I wish I would have been in your situation, and I'm going to be very transparent and honest about my finances. And I like to be an open book, and I like to be very vulnerable here, because I think it will inspire others. I had a $250,000 job at LinkedIn. So very good pay for London. If you're in like New York or somewhere else, it's probably a little bit like on the more smaller end. I don't know. It might still be like a decent job, but like in the UK, like I was earning the most out of all of my friends, like very, very decent job. However, as I said, I exited that relationship with my now ex-partner, and we had a house together, and that house didn't sell for 12 months, but I already had to move out. So I moved out. So I had to pay rent living in London,
Very
plus I still had to
expensive.
pay for the mortgage. And then on top of that, I also had a Tesla, which amazing car. However, we
Hmm.
don't like Elon Musk anymore. I was a big fan, but when
Okay.
I bought the Tesla, I purchased it, and then a few weeks later Elon Musk slashed the prices. You could then, so I paid around like 60K in pounds, so around like 70
Yeah.
80,000 US dollars for the car. And then Elon Musk decided, and I bought it secondhand, and then
Okay.
Elon Musk decided that a brand new model, same model but brand new, is only
Cut
like
prices on it.
like in $30,000, like
Yeah.
so
What year
much.
did you buy that car?
That was 2022. 22.
22. In the States, and just to take you off track here a little bit, used car prices went through the roof during and slightly after COVID because chip manufacturing and other manufacturing was down and they couldn't get new cars to the lots. And so car dealerships who really wanted to sell cars were pounding on everybody's door going, want to sell your car? Want to sell your car? These guys need inventory, right? They sell cars. That's what they do. And more importantly, they service cars. So when they have a relationship with somebody who's bought a car from them, the sale is nice. Every time you come for maintenance is what keeps them alive and thriving. And so used cars went like this. But once that all settled out, end of 22 into 2023, it went right back down to this low market. You may have been the unfortunate victim of that phenomenon
Buying
where you
their
bought it at the top and then they came back down because manufacturing started kicking back in, chips came back in, battery components came back in. So
you
it's
know
okay. Life's a journey. You're winning at so many other things. This is a minor bump.
And we will get to that, because
Yeah.
that's the thing. I bought that car, and I bought it on finance. Also, not the most clever decision I made. I learned that now. But I was basically paying $1,000 each month to pay off that car,
Yeah.
which was a few weeks after I bought it, worth less, half of
Yeah.
what I paid for. So I also, in my finance contract, I couldn't sell it. If I would have wanted to sell the car, I would have still needed to pay off like at least a 30K for that
Yeah.
car that
Big
I would no
check.
longer have. So I was locked in having that car. Plus, I was made redundant 2 weeks after I bought the car. So there was, luckily I got another job within like 3 months. So I was only out of
Mm-hmm.
work for 3 months. That wasn't like the issue, but it just shows like you never know what's going to happen, what like
Never.
curveballs life throws you. So basically last year I was locked in still with the Tesla. Also, parking in London is fucking hard. I didn't need a car anymore. I just wanted to park it somewhere so that like the agreement can like finally run out and I can give the car back. But I was stuck with the car. I couldn't sell the house and I had to pay rent in London. So all of my savings, to be fair, I didn't have like much savings. I also want to be very open and transparent about this. When people have a high paying job, that doesn't mean they're good with money. Like
That's
I'm
right.
spending a lot of money. I'm not great with saving money. I'm good at making money, but not good at like accumulating money. And I want to be upfront about this because other people might resonate and they're not alone. So yeah, I
Ditto.
had all of those finances. And then when I worked at LinkedIn, I got to that point again where I felt like I'm getting a bit too comfortable in that role. I couldn't really grow higher because I was already in one of the highest like sales roles. I didn't want to move into management and just like corporate life in general. I was just fed up with it. As I said, like I'm just like, I craved adventure and freedom and doing something for myself. And I was thinking if I were to put in the amount of effort I put into my job, if I were to do my own business, like I cannot imagine it not going well. So I got to that point where I thought I want to leave my job, but I can't. I have so much debt. So I accrued around like 20K credit card debt at this point, still having that Tesla, the house finally sold. But like, who quits their job with like 20K in debt and like not really knowing what business to set up and what to do and like knowing there will be income coming your way? And so I sat with this for like a few months and I kept thinking, I'm just miserable. I want to do something exciting. And then the straw that broke the camel's back. By the way, I want to learn like English proverbs. So I try to like remember them and like put them in, sounding like as if this comes naturally. It doesn't, but I practice.
You're doing very well.
Thank you. So in February, I said earlier, I made that goal public to grow my audience to 10,000 followers. That was very strategic. Yes, I did it on the one hand to learn in practice what it means to show up on LinkedIn so I can do my job at LinkedIn better. But also at the same time, I was thinking, whatever it is that I do, if I have my own business, if I launch my own business, having an audience will help me, whether it's a Pilates studio, whether it's a consulting service, whatever I'm doing. If I have people and eyeballs onto me, I will already be a few steps ahead than someone who starts from zero. So I thought, let's just give it a try. That's also something, it excited me. It was something different. It sparked a little bit out like my adventurous self, doing something out of my comfort zone. But I already had in mind, like, I want to gear up to leaving my job. And then the straw that broke the camel's back, I closed one of the biggest deals of the year. And I was so fucking proud. And it was like such a gigantic deal that I worked on for over a year, finally closed, and I didn't get any recognition. I got like my money, my commission paid, which was like 30K in like 1 month, just like additional bonus on top, which shows how fucking big that deal was.
Yeah.
My manager said congratulations, but there were team messages sent for other deals that are like minor with like congratulations and well done. And I didn't get anything. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And not saying everyone is so mean, etc. I thought about this for a long time and it was just like circumstances. There were things happening and it is just kind of like, there was nobody wanted any harm for me. It just literally fell off the table kind of because it was like at a time where a lot of things were happening. But that was just like where I thought, I want to celebrate when I close a deal. I want to be so fucking proud of myself and like reap those rewards and celebrate myself and celebrate my team and everyone and not wait for someone else to congratulate me. And that was just like where I thought I need to make a change. And then as I said, like growing on LinkedIn, all those doors opening, I thought like I'm onto something here. But I was still having that debt. And I was thinking, fuck, like I'm living in a very expensive apartment in London. As I said, like I'm good at spending money, not very good at saving money. And once you have a lifestyle, you don't want to suddenly like move in with your parents into like a flat share, etc. So I just worked on my mindset. I was just thinking again, like what is the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, I quit my job, doesn't work out for a couple of months. I put more money onto my credit card and I have to find another corporate job. That would have been the worst case scenario. Having LinkedIn, Gartner, etc. on my CV, I will always
you've got an amazing CV. You're gonna land in a great spot. You know, while you're taking a sip there, I just want to go back to something you said. You were talking about, oh man, I hate when this happens. My brain gets so full of 20 good ideas and I chop up. Let's let you keep going.
And also then you have your guest who is just talking without a pause.
No, it's great. I normally write down these little nuggets, but I'm so intrigued by what you're saying. Let's keep going.
All right. I don't know where I was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vic, for that. Look what we've done here now.
We'll edit this out. It's okay. Let me mark this clip.
It's all right. I'm happy for the audience to see the rawness behind the scenes. By the way, this is very authentic. This is very much around like, this is how it looks like recording a podcast. It's not always.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is just a lot of fun. All right, then I'm going to leave it in. It's fine. But no, you were talking about you were talking about building, you know, you got to 10,000 and you went on, and I just wanted to take a step back. Like you had this goal, you set it, but we didn't talk about what it really took to get to the 10,000. And I know you're beyond that now. Like, can you unpack that a little bit for us? Like, what was the intention? What did you have to do? What did you know about the algorithms at LinkedIn? What, you know, how did you get there? And what's, you know, what's next? Like, and how do people keep growing these? Because honestly, selfishly, I'm at like 14, 15,000 followers on LinkedIn. I work hard at it. I put out multiple posts a week. By the way, if I can, I know what I was going to I was going to ask you. Celebrating yourself. See, here we go. My brain is still working. Boy, Alicia, that is so important. And I tell my business partners all the time, because sometimes we'll close some spectacular deals. And one of my business partners, both of them are amazing. One of them is such the hard driving consummate sales guy that for the longest time, he never would celebrate a win. Okay, boom, done. Yay. Okay, what's the next deal? And I said to him, dude, man, we're like, this is the life we're living. When are you going to celebrate anything? Are you going to wait until you're in a wheelchair and you're thinking about all this stuff? And at that point, you're going to celebrate all the wins you had along the way? You must celebrate along the way. You have to do it. And we talked about Kate Ladon. I talked to Kate, her business was turning 10 years old. And I said to her, what are you doing to celebrate that? She goes, oh, nothing. I go, okay, we're changing that right now. And she gave me a nice little shout out on LinkedIn, said, my friend Vic Pepe reminded me it's important. I said, go get a cake, get a bottle of booze, go out to dinner with your husband. Whatever you think is important for you to recognize this moment, take pictures, feel great about it. You've been in business on your own for 10 years. Do you know the statistics of business, of entrepreneurship? They're abysmal. Most people are done in a year or two, get 5% of it, make it 5 years. I mean, the stats are grim. So I wanted to pluck out this notion that you said, hey, I'm celebrating along the way. It's so important. So first, let's talk about that. And then I want to come back to what it took to get to the 10,000.
But that is also, you already summed it up very nicely. There is not much
Okay.
for me to add. It
Okay.
is that, like, be proud of yourself and take that
Yeah.
moment to really celebrate yourself. But also for, like, it doesn't need to be just like those big milestones, small milestones, because
Big
that
time.
keeps you going. There's
Yeah.
actually a book by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy, 10x is easier than 2x. Brilliant book. And they also say, like, basically as like a daily exercise, you should go to bed each night and think about 3 things, small successes you had throughout the day. And that is so brilliant, because that continuously reminds you of, like, you're making progress. Even if a day felt a bit odd and shit, there was probably something as tiny that still moved you forward. Celebrate that.
There's a momentum that gets created there
Exactly.
because your thoughts drive your actions. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
It can be the other way around, but you have to lead with your thoughts. And I always say, so if you're thinking something or you're speaking something, I always say the words you say are the ones people hear. And so that's out loud. So if I wanted to say something to you, Alicia, no matter what I said, no matter what I intended, like, people are going to, like, pick up on that energy and those words and really take it to heart. Same thing internally. The things you think are the things that sort of infuse your heart, mind, and body, and they'll either drive you or disable you. So you've got to have a tool and a mechanism to be able to shift out all the noise. I think it's the guy, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, recently had a bunch of posts about signal to noise ratio. Like, the best of the best entrepreneurs focus more on signal than noise. Right. And so he said Steve Jobs was like, and he worked with Steve early on. He had a company that did like a training platform. And he said Steve was like, he was hard driving. He'll curse you out. He's great, but he was like 85-15, 85 signal, 15 noise. He said Musk is like 95-5. Musk is 95 signal, like what's important, what's going to make a difference, what drives, and anything else that's in the way of all that, that's noise. I can only focus on it if there's like a potential catastrophe coming up. But as you really think about that and you peel back the onion on your own life or on watching other people have found success, it's the same. They focus on what's moving forward. They don't dwell on what potentially, hit them in the shins or knock them to their knees. It's like, get back up, keep moving. So super duper important. Let's get back to the 10,000 goal that you had.
All
You wake
right.
up one day, you've got 2,000, you're getting 35 pity likes, right? And comments from friends and family, and you decide you're going to become a presence. 3,
Yeah.
2, 1, go. Tell me all about it.
All right. First of all, it is doable for anyone listening and they want to reach those 10,000 followers in a short amount of time. As I said, I've done it in 3 months. If you want to get there, it is doable, but it's fucking hard. But it
Yeah.
is doable. I must say, I mean, I work for LinkedIn. That means spending 3 to 4 hours on LinkedIn per day was fine. was fine. I could get away with it. If I had my LinkedIn open whilst I
Yeah.
was at work in the office, nobody would raise an eyebrow. So there wasn't anything that I knew about the algorithm that other people wouldn't know. LinkedIn is very like, oh my God, we could have a whole podcast about the algorithm. The algorithm is very temperamental and very differently set up depending on what versions you're using, what regions you're in, etc. And they don't
Okay.
share it with their employees. Trust me, I search every sort of like corner of our intranet for information on the algorithm. There is nothing. So I had to learn it all myself. And I just literally started and I was just stumbling my way through it. But I was very transparent. And I think this is what people got really interested in me. One, I was a LinkedIn employee, making myself vulnerable of saying like, I have no idea how to post on LinkedIn, even though I'm a LinkedIn employee. That's not
Yeah.
something you hear every day. And then I was very transparent in just saying, I'm at these amount of followers now. I'm tracking
Yeah.
X amount of followers per day. I'm ahead of my target. I'm behind my target. This is what I'm currently trying. I brought people onto that journey very transparently.
Amazing.
And then I was just learning the strategies along the ways. I was just looking at like what other people are doing, what are posting formats that work. I was basically became like semi-obsessed with it because again, like that was something that just sparked my energy and like my excitement when I was quite like bored in my job. So yeah, I was just figuring it out. I was posting every day and yes, people rolled their eyes. I got messages,
Really?
questions from my colleagues about like,
That
why are you
that
doing?
happened to me too, by the way, but I want to hear about how you handled it.
And you know what? Just last week, a friend of mine from Germany, maybe she sees this, maybe she doesn't, I don't know. But she basically messaged me and said, like, I found it so annoying seeing your face all the time, didn't understand what you were doing. I thought, like, well, thank you for opening the message in that way. But
Yeah.
anyways, the end of the message was her saying, I really admire what you do. I understand it now. And congratulations on how far you've come. I thought, like, yeah, but it's the thing. A lot of people start and everyone has to climb. We call it the cringe mountain. Everyone has to, it feels cringe putting yourself out there for the very first time. You're not quite sure what to post. You're not quite sure what other people would think. I love Mel
Yeah.
Robbins and I love that she brought out that book, the Let Them theory, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically just like, don't give a fucking shit what other people are thinking about you. You live your own life. Whatever goals you have in your life, it's no one's business. You don't need to justify yourself. Just live your fucking life. You only have one life. Anyways, but this is basically the mindset you have to develop. And then it gets easier and easier in terms of like climbing that cringe mountain because the land of desire is on the other side, launching a business, failing, etc. It's hard and it's cringe. And it's like, yes, you might fail and people might think like, oh, that failed. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? So
You
anyways,
know, I've spent, and I'm going to tell, like, I'm going to be vulnerable here for a moment as well. It became very important to me as I was approaching the ripe young age of 60. You start looking at life a little bit differently. You start saying, okay, I don't have an infinite amount of time left. How I spend my time and the value I create in my life needs to be precision. There needs to be like almost with a scalpel. Somehow when I was 25, 30, I just didn't have care. Well, of course I had cares in the world, but I was so bold and courageous. Like I would take a shot at anything because for me, the worst thing that could happen to me is I could move home, sleep in a twin bed, and my mom would make a meal. I was very blessed to have stable family. Um, we didn't have a ton of money. My parents were not wealthy. They were middle class people, both working, both grinding, both saving. They created a nice family environment, lived very modestly. Um, but I had that, right? And then, shelter, heat, air conditioning, a meal. Like I saw that as my competitive advantage. But as I started approaching 60, and I've had a great run in the corporate world, I started in the music business. I told you about that early on. I went on to have a great corporate career. I started thinking, I do not want to be the irrelevant old geezer in the room. The guy whose technology's passed them by, life has passed them by, experiences have passed them by. And I said, how am I going to safeguard my future? Well, I have so much experience and I have so many great stories and I have so many great friends with great stories. I've got to put all that to work. So I started really stepping up my LinkedIn presence. And boy, did I go through that cringe era. The shit people was saying to me, like I had a business partner, one of my business partners, greatest guy in the entire universe, didn't understand it. I think maybe even now still doesn't really like it or understand it, because you're either, in his mind, you're either all in on what we're doing with a company, or like can't do both. He's come around and he's obviously seen the value, and he's been a great supporter. Like, he's not been a detractor of it, but I don't think he understood what I was doing up front. I think he's starting to get it now. But I would come into colleagues or even customers, and they would say something like, hey, if you want to know about something, just go to LinkedIn. I'm sure Vic will share it with you.
Yep.
And he was 45 when he said this to me. And I said, hey, let me give you a little lens into the future. I said, right now you're 45, you're starting to hit stride. You've just become a chief operating officer. I've had 5 CIO gigs in my career. I've sat at the leadership table. I've been to more board meetings than I care to even remember. I said, and you're starting to really hit your stride. I said, and all feels new and great. I said, you're going to wake up right here at some point, and you're going to say, holy shit, I'm only a decade away from 70. And for him, he's a very health conscious, focused guy. So I think he'll be fit and in shape. And, you got to not only focus on your health and your wealth and your family, but it's like, if you want to maintain this growth, if you have a growth spirit and a growth mindset, it requires things. And if you're going to transition your life into maybe speaking or being relevant, you've got to have a presence. And it sobered him up, Alicia, so quick. It sobered him up. So he's like, holy shit. Like I said, I want to be relevant. I've got to write about things that, I've got to go out, continue to learn, and then write about and have a voice and engage other people who know more than I do on these topics, so that I can become smarter. Pardon me, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Pardon me. Thank you. And so I said, that's what my 70s are going to look like. What are yours? Like, are you just going to work until you retire and then do nothing and crumble? And is the brain going to shrink because it's not being used? Yeah, you'll be in the gym all the time, or you'll be working out. Like, how's the brain and this growth and love of learning going to go? I tell people all the time, whatever number episode I release, Monday was 81. I'm 81 episodes smarter than I was 81 episodes ago, because people are gracious enough to share their life experience with me. And so, I get it. It's important. It's taken me a long time to get to 15,000. So I want to hear more about how you got to 10,000. What did you post about? What was the topic? What brought people in? When did how did you recognize that if you're hitting something on the algorithm and it's working or not, and why?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for your own story there, because I think this is what a lot of people need to hear, that are still like a bit like skeptical, but think about like the bigger picture, think about your
Yeah.
why, think about the impact it can have. So thank you for expanding on that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'm giving you all the tea now on
All right.
LinkedIn tips and tricks.
Okay.
So as I said earlier, I was sharing my journey transparently. So that was something that got people very loyal. They really wanted to see my next post and next post, because they wanted to see how I'm tracking towards my goal. So
Yeah.
bringing people onto a journey is a great way. Being bold.
Yeah.
Bold, I'm not necessarily saying you need to be contrarian or controversial, but just being bold and show up as your real authentic self in the way how you think and what are you thinking. And I always like to think like, I say in my post, this is what I'm thinking and this is my opinion. But I also ended up with saying, I'm not an expert. Like, tell me wrong. Like, let's have a conversation. Like, teach me
Yeah.
something as well. So a lot of people think like on LinkedIn, you need to show up as like someone who has it all figured out. You are an expert already. You are the thought leader. But that's not the case.
Interesting.
Be
Okay.
humble, be human, show where your
Yeah.
strengths are, show where your weaknesses are, say what you want to learn, say where you need to develop yourself. The LinkedIn audience, people on LinkedIn are genuinely insanely nice and helpful. And you don't need to do this behind closed doors. You can speak to your audience through your content and ask them questions and learn with them, develop with them. And posting is one thing. So I can go into like the proper like strategy of like LinkedIn posts in terms of like a
Yeah.
marketing funnel, top funnel post, middle funnel post, etc. There is so much to it. And again, we could talk an hour for
Yeah.
it. Also, Vic, by the way, I'm more than happy like to let you pick my brain if you want to know anything else around like your LinkedIn strategy.
Oh,
Very
we're
happy
going to do better than that. I already know. So we're gonna stay on after the episode and have a little conversation.
All right.
Okay.
And then one thing that people forget is they think just putting out content is what you need to do. LinkedIn is one of those platforms where you need to drive engagement yourself.
Yeah.
It's not just, they call it post and ghost, where you just put
Yeah.
it out, you schedule it, and that's it. And it will just naturally grow. Yes, you might hit like the jackpot and one post might go viral and you get some followers, but they will not stay engaged. So you need to comment, you need to DM people, and you need to send connection requests. I came up with like a bit of like a method, and I call it the 20-20-20 method, which should be like
Okay.
trademark. I don't know.
Okay.
But this is kind of what I
You
did.
heard it here first, people.
Yes,
Yeah.
with a little TM sign afterwards. Mm. So that was something I did when I was on my 10K follower growth journey. That was basically 1 hour on LinkedIn a day, just pure engagement. So this is not
Okay.
even like crafting the post. And to be fair, I oftentimes spent more than an hour a day, but then there were also days at the weekend where I wasn't on LinkedIn at all. So anyways, it's like a rough guide, but it's basically saying leave at least 20 comments on other people's posts per day. There's another strategy behind this with like bigger creators, smaller creators, your ICPs. Anyways, so commenting 20 comments per day, then sending 20 connection requests per day. If you have a premium profile, you can send 150 per week, which is like roughly around like 20 a day. Whenever you send a connection request to someone, include a message, because when you include a message, you can ask like an open-ended question. They will hopefully respond. That then means you should spend 20 minutes in your DMs a day. That all helps the algorithm, because
Okay.
on the one hand, it is the algorithm. On the other hand, it's just human psychology. If you've just been
Yeah.
in touch with someone and you suddenly see their post, you're more likely to engage with that post. But
Yeah.
also from the algorithmic perspective, LinkedIn will show your posts to those people that recently engaged with you. So if you just spoke to someone in the DMs, your content will be shown to them. If you recently engaged in a comment and they responded, your post will be shown to them. And then, as I said, like, and it's just human relationships. We want to support each other. And when you've been in touch with someone, they are interested in what you're doing. So I was very active behind the scenes, commenting a lot, talking to people a lot, just like connecting. Yeah. And then when I did put out posts, every single post I put out would have a little bit more engagement and more engagement because I was doing so much behind the scenes, like just sending 150 connection requests per week. Let's say 50% of them get accepted. I must say I probably had a bit of an advantage because I had LinkedIn as my employer. I
Yeah.
think
You're
probably
like
more
a magnet
people,
for people saying yes.
yeah. But then also, having said this, if you have a standout profile, like profile picture, doesn't mean to be you need to be like pretty for that, but just like a really clear, good picture, you smiling with like a colorful background, that is already like really eye-catching. If you then have a really good headline that is very like funny or bold or different, like standing out, people will accept your connection request. If you include then a message that is personalized, relevant, why would they not accept your connection request?
Yeah.
So I hate when people say like, oh yeah, you had it easy because you worked at LinkedIn, or like other people, but not me. Again, like it's this whole like victim mindset that we spoke about.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so yeah, lots of engagement, posting every day, almost every day. And then it kind of happened. And I must say, I was about like 2,000 away from my goal a few days before the end of the goal. And then I hit the jackpot and I had a viral post that got like over 7,000 likes, which is nuts. And
Wow.
this
How many impressions is 7,000 likes?
was around like 200,000 impressions.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
And the reason why this went viral is because I was the most vulnerable I've ever been. And this is what people shy away from. Yes, LinkedIn is a platform about business and work.
Yeah.
So whatever you're saying needs to have a tie to that. But it doesn't mean that we can't talk about us humans. And this is what we're craving nowadays. We can see this in terms of like LinkedIn is moving in waves and like different content perform better at different times. And we are now in this era where you need to include personality and storytelling in your post while still delivering value. But we want to be entertained in a world of AI where everyone can put out posts in seconds.
Crap.
How do you stand out? And it's those raw human stories that perform well, that trigger emotions. And
Those are my best posts, by the way.
You see?
Those are my best posts.
The thing is, if you only post those posts, you also don't build that credibility as like a thought leader. people wouldn't buy from you if it's just that. But every now and then, putting a very personal post out, a very vulnerable one, if it's then also tied to business, it's a very good combination.
Can I get
Mm,
some real-time feedback from you here?
please.
All right. So, I decided, for good, bad, or indifferent, better or worse, that Fridays was a good day for me to give you my vulnerable post, because it was a little bit lighthearted. It may be a funny story, or maybe something where I'm more vulnerable. It might even be less business related. It could have a tug into business. And I thought those were the appropriate days. It's like, have a good weekend, right? I had a couple of posts that sort of took off, and one recently I'm going to tell you about, what's got very odd statistics behind it, and I can't figure it out, but I want you to dissect it for me. First post was when Ozzy Osbourne died. I had an experience with Ozzy Osbourne through my days in the music business, where he sang background vocals on a song that I wrote for Alice Cooper. And I
It's such a
told
cool
this,
story. I just need
oh,
to acknowledge that. How cool
thank
is
you.
that?
I told the story. I'll shoot you the post so you could see it. But I was like, hey, this is what happened. It was like a kid's dreams coming true. This little rock and roll kid. Slash played guitar on the track. Alice Cooper is recording the song, and Ozzy sings background vocals. And just recount. Went through that whole thing. I don't know. I maybe got, and for me, I got, I don't know, 8,000-9,000 impressions, but lots of engagement, lots of cool engagement. I recently put out a post. I did a podcast with a guy from Greece. His name is Gus G. Gus is one of the guitar players who played with Ozzy from 2009 to 2017. He's a bit of a virtuoso. He's the nicest freaking guy on the planet. He's unreal. I had an amazing podcast with him. I'm at 86,000 impressions, but I've got little to no engagement. So that was perplexing to me, because I hadn't even been looked at it. I released it on Monday. I didn't repost it to give it a little juice. I wasn't able. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was it a video
It's not a
or was
video.
it an image?
It was an image and text.
Okay.
It
All
was
right.
announcing his episode. And it had a cool picture of him on stage with his guitar. And, you've seen my thumbnails. They're all the same, except I insert the guest. And, hashtag Ozzy, hashtag rock and roll, no real tags, because Gus is not big on LinkedIn. And then a link to the episode on YouTube. And 3 or 4 comments, 30 some odd likes, 86,000 impressions. Like, I don't even know what's going on. Okay. I thought I would have had a ton of engagement. And by the way, it's the largest amount of impressions I've ever received on any of my posts. But my other point is that, we'll come back to that. But then I had another one on going through change. Now, the picture in the first one, which had, near 10,000, was a picture of Ozzy around his death. Very relevant. People can check that out. The next one on change was a picture of me with long hair with the German artist Doro Pesch. I don't know if you know who Doro is, but
I don't
she's
know.
known as the queen of metal. When
Oh,
it comes to heavy metal and being a female, Doro is the queen goddess of metal, and has been
very
for
proud of my
decades.
Germans. Yeah. Nice.
Very, 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 very big. And so we recorded a record together. I co-wrote and co-produced one of her records in the early 90s. And there's a great picture of she and I together. I'm young. I got long hair, real chiseled. And it was about change. So I wrote this whole post about, the only thing certain is change and what change does. And I said, and speaking of change, check out this picture below. This was me when I co-wrote, co-produced record. I had a lot more hair back then, but P.S. I accept the change. you know, that thing took off 10, 12,000 impressions, good engagement, lots of engagement. But those human things tied to business. So the first one was just a pure experience. It was like a homage to Ozzy. The second one, and really, I think this is a bit of my calling card now, is I've had so much change in my life and I've adapted to it through tough and through easier times, but embracing it as part of growth has really fueled my ability to change and adapt. I'm going to actually write a book on change. I've written 2 books prior. This book it was going to be about social selling. It was the working title was Sales and Social Selling. I've put that to the side for a little bit. I'm so passionate about this next book and writing it on change. I've got a lot of experience. But anyway, I'm a little perplexed on those things. So unpack all of that, if you would.
I'm happy to unpack.
Okay.
But also I want to say, like, just talking to you now, I
Hmm.
can see you have such vast amount of stories and really interesting and fun and entertaining stories that are very inspirational. This all makes great LinkedIn content. So if you're writing a book on change, make sure you take that PDF, put it into a custom GPT or a project, and
Yeah.
use this as your content generation machine so it can pull all your information moving forward.
Great.
Storytelling is great on LinkedIn. This is also why probably that post with my German musician. I need to look her up. You need to send me her name again. I need to have a look. My
I
dad
will.
probably knows her, like has heard of her.
Yeah.
Um, this is why those posts perform well, because it's the storytelling. It's like the glimpse behind the scenes of your life, but also it was very inspirational about change. And that is where other people can see themselves in your post. I have no idea. I haven't seen the post that you were saying with like 80,000 impressions, but low engagement. I would assume, having said I have not seen the post, but I would
Yeah.
assume the post itself wasn't amazing. Apologies.
Yeah. That's okay.
But there are 2 things that could have happened. One is that maybe someone with a high following has engaged with your post, either liked it or left a comment, or what you can't see, saved it or sent
Mm,
it to someone else. Because
okay.
this then also gives LinkedIn the trigger that it is important to other people. If they would have publicly engaged with it, like liking or commenting, it would have shown to their audience. But then what could have happened is that a lot of people saw the post but weren't triggered or
Yeah.
emotionalized. That's why they didn't engage with it. Another reason could be
Can we
LinkedIn.
pause there for a second? This post was not even built for high engagement. I have a Monday morning post that announces my new episodes. And it's not it's just like, hey, new episode out, and it basically, and maybe we could work on how to improve this, but basically says episode number 81 is now live and the link is here. And then it basically says, this week I spoke with Alicia Teltz. She's this wonderful woman from blah, 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 blah. She's done this and she's done that. You're going to be so inspired by this conversation. Check out the full episode here. Boom. That, like, those posts aren't even meant, that's why I'm shocked that this thing has 80 some odd thousand impressions. There are other posts I put out that are geared towards like the storytelling, the commentary, or even some data around something I'm working on professionally. As you know, that 32% of people XYZ, and we just did this study and we deployed this technology and this all worked, or this is where it failed and this is how we did to fix it, what we did to fix it, those things. So I was shocked. Like, you're right. It definitely wasn't a great post for engagement. So I'm
Yeah.
shocked, but that's interesting to know. You've helped me understand some of the possibilities.
Also, we can work on how to put out those episode announcements in a
Hmm.
much better way that
Okay.
actually can become more of like, so what you are describing currently, your episode announcements are bottom funnel posts. They're not
Hmm.
designed to go viral. People will not get their eyeballs onto you if they don't know you yet. They're designed for those people that already follow you, that you already build trust with, and you
Hmm.
convert them. You convert them
Okay.
into listening to your podcast. So this is bottom funnel posts. But we can discuss how we can actually create top funnel posts while
Yeah.
still promoting your podcast. We can talk about
Okay.
this.
Good.
Um, but I'm still intrigued with like that one post that got so many impressions. LinkedIn has a team. They're called the editorial team. They hand out those top voice badges, and they
Yeah.
have the power to promote certain posts manually. So it pops out in users
Hmm.
notifications that you're not following each other. For some reason, a random person pops up in my notification and it says that person has posted. That's when the editorial team decides to do that. In this case, I'm not quite sure why they would have decided to do that, but there could have been another explanation
Okay.
why you suddenly got so many. And also, I must say, sometimes the algorithm is just really weird. Sometimes when they
Well,
make
maybe somebody in that editorial team loves Gus from
That could
Greece.
be it.
You know, could be
That
a
could
metalhead who follows metal guitar, likes his band Firewind, loved Ozzy because and Gus is an amazing human. So I also think, honestly, forget the algorithm. Like, this guy's so awesome, such a great guy. I just think the universe is responding to him,
I love that thought. I'm a big
you
believer in
know?
the universe. Things
Yeah.
happening for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there are no coincidences, Alicia.
Yeah.
Like, these things are, I think personally, whatever
Well, let's
your
hope that the
conviction
same,
is on religion or the universe or space or spirituality, there's something at work here for sure.
however you want to call it. And
Yeah.
yes, whatever we are calling it, I hope it is happening for when you're announcing our podcast as well.
Well, you're going to help me make sure that happens.
Yes.
Cool. Hey, I want to do something here. We're approaching the end of our time, but man, I'm just having such a great time. I don't want to stop. I want to go through some rapid fire questions for you, if you don't mind.
All right.
Um, some of these I know. You know, you saw some of these questions I sent over, but I want to ask this one. What's a habit or ritual or something you do on the daily that um, you swear by? That you just like, this works for me. What is that? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to say it's like exercise and this and
Hmm.
that. I try, but that's not the case. Um,
Okay.
but we spoke about something similar earlier. When I go to bed, me and my partner, and we do it without exception, no matter how tired we are, if it's 3 in the morning, we do it every night. We both have a little rock on the side of our bed, and then we hold it in our hands, and then we say the top 3 things that happened to us throughout the day.
Mm.
And we
Okay.
rank them by like what was our best experience, because what we want is like we want to go to sleep with that mindset of like life is good,
Yeah.
and like no matter how shit the day is. Oops, sorry, I'm just getting a call, and
That's
I
okay. I thought it was
left
me.
my phone on do
Sorry.
not disturb. I'm not sure why it came for.
It's
Apologies.
okay. It's life.
All right,
So that's
but yeah,
nice.
that
So
was actually
that's
him calling. So I think this is like him knowing I was talking about.
okay. Um, is there a myth about personal branding that you think is out there that you just want to shoot and kill right now and put to rest?
I think the myth about personal branding on LinkedIn is like this typical, like it has to be corporate. It has to be like polished. It needs to be like without any typos and perfect. That is an absolute myth. The best content is the raw, vulnerable, slightly messy, slightly ranty, overly emotional posts. Um, so yeah, we are more human and we want to see more human content. So about personal
Hmm.
branding is be who you are. This is your personal brand. Be authentic. Don't ever try to be someone you're not.
And my last question for you is, what's the first thing you tell somebody? And it's a two-part question. One is, who's afraid to take a leap out of a safe corporate job and who may be afraid of going through that icky cringe stuff, trying to build up their personal brand and values so that the world becomes more aware of who they are. So part one, what what would you tell somebody who's going to take a leap out of a corporate safe job?
Is what we said earlier, what Mel Robbins is saying, the let them theory, which is don't give a shit what others are thinking about you. If just that thought crosses your mind of thinking like, oh, what will others think if I quit my job and I go back into a corporate job, or if I start that business and it doesn't work out, don't even think about that, because this is you thinking about other people, not thinking about yourself. And also, it is just like taking the risks of not, like the risk of laying on your deathbed and regretting not having taken it is higher than any sort of financial risk or whatever it might be for taking the
Yeah.
leap.
And what about showing up online? What would you tell somebody who's like, I don't know if it's for me. I don't want, I'm not the look at me person. Look at me. It seems very narcissistic. Like, what would you say to that?
It is, by the way, this is what 99% of people are saying. On LinkedIn, it's only 1% of users are posting more than once a week. And
Wow.
you mentioned earlier as well, the opportunities that will come to you. How are you supposed to be like better in your career, better in your sales, better in growing your business, or in building a legacy or achieving your dreams? Again, like I don't give a shit what your dreams are. Your dreams are your dreams. You don't need to justify yourself. But whatever your dreams are, if nobody knows about something you're doing and that you want to do and that you want to be known for, how are they supposed to engage with you? You have to put yourself out there. If you want to be successful in whatever way, you have to be visible. And yes, it feels cringe, but also it doesn't mean that when you post that you have to put the spotlight onto you.
Yeah.
Put the spotlight onto other people. Talk about something with your own perspective and experience, but you don't need to say look at me, how amazing I am. Nobody likes a self-promoter. You can do this every now and then to build credibility, but you can talk about a book you've read. You can talk about a podcast you've listened to, the key insights you've taken. Or as you said, you talk about Ozzy Osbourne. Or talk about what's happening in the news, summarize the news, whatever it might be, but you don't have to make yourself into the center of it if you're not comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
Alicia, there's a value to being wrong in life because you learn. And there's a value to being right because it confirms that maybe you're headed down the right direction. Today, I want to celebrate the fact that I was right. And that was in my gut instinct saying that this person has going to have something fiery and feisty and really refreshing to talk about. And boy, was I right. You were an amazing guest today. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you for saying that. And I do hope you're not saying this to every guest. I will go back.
No, I don't. I tell them afterwards. I don't say it publicly, but you were great. And if you could stick around after this episode for a few minutes, do you have a few minutes to chat?
I have all the time in the world for you, Vic.
Okay, great. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Bye. Please don't forget to comment,